Hello, and welcome to the Yonatech video series. I'm John Yonan, and today we're going to set up Inter-VLAN routing using a layer 3 switch. This was a request from one of my subscribers. I had done a router on a stick configuration where I routed between two different VLANs using the router on a stick technique, and here we're just going to use a layer 3 switch with some switched virtual interfaces. So it's a very simple environment. We have two PCs that are going to be in different VLANs. This one, PC 10, will be in VLAN 10, and PC 20 will be in VLAN 20. Of course, PCs don't understand VLANs, but the switch ports that they're plugged into can be configured to understand those differences. So on this PC 10, we have set this up with 192.168.10.10 with a gateway of 192.168.10.1. The 10.1 will be the switched virtual interface, and that'll be plugged into port 10. And this gateway, this will be 192.168.20.20 for VLAN 20, and it will have a gateway of 192.168.20.1. And again, we're going to assign the switched virtual interface to be 192.168.20.1 in the VLAN 20. Now this layer 3 switch, a 3560, has not been configured. It's just been placed up here. So these are the steps. First step we're going to do is we're going to create the VLANs. Second, we're going to create the switched virtual interface for both of the VLANs. And then we are going to configure the access ports to work within the SVI. And then we're going to enable IP routing. We don't actually use the no switch port configuration to turn a port or an interface into a routed port. We are just going to use the SVIs. So let's get started. We're going to open this switch up and plugged a few things in, so it looks like the the interface 10 and 20 is what we've plugged into here, and their state has been changed to up, but we're going to modify things a little bit here. So first of all, we want to get into global configuration mode, and let's type do show VLAN. And you'll notice that we just have the default VLAN, VLAN 1 right now, with all of the ports that are in this switch. So let's improve upon that. We're going to first create the VLANs. All we have to do is type in VLAN 10 to create VLAN 10. And let's give it a name. We're going to call it simply VLAN 10. And you don't have to go back out. If you're going to create another VLAN, you can actually do it right from here. You can just type in VLAN 20, enter, and we'll give that a name. We'll just call it simply VLAN 20. Now we'll exit out. And if we do a do show VLAN now, you're going to see we have VLAN 10 with a name VLAN 10 and 20 with a name VLAN 20. But we have not assigned any of the ports to this VLAN. All right. So the next thing we have to do, we're going to create the SVI VLAN interfaces. So let's get back to that. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to type in interface VLAN 10. And then we want to just give this a description. We'll call it default gateway. Default gateway SV, let's see, SVI for 192.168.10.0, and that's going to be in a Class C subnet mask, so we'll just go 24. Enter. And then we need to give it an IP address. Excuse me. .1. Whoops. Okay. And we give it the no shut command, or no shutdown. No shut for short. I'm going to do the whole thing. No shutdown. And then we exit. Now we're going to do the same thing for interface VLAN 20. So we go int VLAN 20. That takes the state to up. Then we can put in a description. Default gateway SVI for 192.168.20.0, right? /24. And then we want to assign the IP address here as well. IP, you can just type add rather than address. 192.168.20, whoops, 20.1 with a Class C subnet. And that should take. Then we want to go no shut or no shutdown. I'll just do no shut and exit. Now our SVI, or our switched virtual interfaces, should be set up, and last thing we need to do is we need to configure the access points so that the port 10 and port 20 are part of these, the SVI 10 and the SVI 20 switched virtual interfaces. So let's get doing that. So first thing we want to do is go into the port that we're interested in. Let's see, interface FA0/10, and we'll give it a description. Access port to PC10. And here we want to say switch port mode access switch port. Well, I guess I must have, yeah, I mistyped that. So if you ever mistype something, you usually get an error message like this, invalid input director, and it'll kind of tell you where it's at. So in this case, I typed it wrong. So let's type it again. CH port mode access. There we go. And then switch port access VLAN 10. Enter. And now we can get out of this, exit. And now we can go into the other one, interface. You can just type int like I did earlier, or spell it all out. int fa 0/20. And then we give it a description. And this will say something like access port to PC 20. All right. Now we simply mimic what we did before. Switch port, spelling it correctly this time. Mode access. And then switch port access VLAN 20. And then we simply exit. Now, the final piece, you have to set up global IP routing in this switch. And it's a very simple statement. You just type in IP space routing. Hit enter. And that turns on routing inside this switch. So now let's go test this. What we need to do is see if we can ping from one VLAN to another. So let's get into PC 10. We'll get into the desktop. Command line, give it a little space here. Okay. So let's see if we can ping we're going to ping from here to our gateway. And that's successful. Now we're going to see if we can ping this device 20.20. There we go, little ARP caching there. And we should be able to obviously then ping from the other direction. So we'll ping 192.168.10.10, and we are successful. So that's how you would set up a single layer 3 switch to route between two different VLANs using Cisco iOS. In the next video, we'll be going over general setup of switches, and hopefully this information has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.